560, The Answer.
With the power of Tandem HR, you are in the fast lane on Main Street with Get Down to Business with Shalom Klein, the show for business and jobs. Now, the champion of networking, the advocate of jobs, the guru of business, your host, Shalom Klein.
We are all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. And business, we talk a lot about business here. You are on with Get Down to Business, and I'm your host, Shalom Klein. Remember, you can always download podcasts from Get Down to Business on my website at shalomklein.com. And while you are there, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Shalom Klein. It's going to be a jam-packed week of content and information you will not want to miss. It's a live show. You could call us at 312-642-5600, 312-642-5600, and we are powered by our good friends at Tandem HR, your solution center. Lots of information for you on our program today. Lots of great guests that I'm excited to introduce you to. Once again, a live program. You could call us 312-642-5600, and I'm thrilled to be joined here in studio by my good friend, Albert Ferguson of Get Fit, Fitness Matrix, and so many other companies and initiatives designed to help people really take advantage of this gorgeous weather that's really kicking off right now. And there's really no excuse for people to avoid getting fit. So, Albert, you are a returning guest on the program. You have worked with people of all shapes and sizes, and you have quite a few centers around the really North Shore, north side of Chicago. Welcome back to Get Down to Business.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So, Albert, as I mentioned a moment ago, the weather is indeed getting better, and folks are looking to see how they can get fit and how they can, whether they want to go out to the beach or whether it's trying to stay in shape to fit into the new clothes that they may have purchased. Everybody wants to be in shape, but many of us work really, really hard. Work in many, many long hours. Tell us a little bit about your tips and advice for folks that meet that profile.
Well, the single most important thing you can do, of course, is make time for yourself. You know, people say if you want something done, give it to a busy person, right? Well, you're all very busy and you know how to fit something into your schedule, particularly something that's going to get you more efficiency out of the things that you do. So just think about the sort of analogy of kids. They always say when they're studying, every 2 hours they spend after 10 p.m. is worth 1 hour they spend before 10 p.m., right? So what you have to do is you have to make sure that you're working efficiently. You're not just working hard. And I know you know this, but you need to take the time, mornings, afternoons, lunch breaks, to make sure that you spend anywhere from 20 to 25, 30 minutes working out, increase the blood flow to the brain, increase the endorphin rush, and you'll be able to find a way to actually be more productive while spending less time working.
So, Albert, you mentioned a specific suggestion of times. You mentioned somewhere in the range of 20 to 25 minutes that people can perhaps do during their lunch break, or maybe even depending on how somebody's workplace is set up, maybe even throughout the workday. What sort of exercises, what sort of things are you suggesting for our listeners?
Well, you know what? In the morning, what I find particularly useful is something that's really just gets heart pumping. Not necessarily the strength training early in the morning, but something related to being on an elliptical, on a bike, a nice light jog. Again, as I said, you want that endorphin rush. They show that people are much better at intellectual and analytical tasks after they've done a bout of relatively strenuous cardio. Mm-hmm. So doing something like that early in the morning, getting the blood rushing, is something that's really helpful to you for the rest of the day. It's also something that can be a great break in the middle of the day. So if you take a light lunch that you're going to do towards the latter half of your lunch, and you get down, you do about 25 minutes, then you take about 5-10 minutes to shower, a couple of minutes to decompress and eat, you can get a lot done later on in the day.
And that's great advice, because for so many of our listeners, there's a lot of gyms that are around, and of course, we'll talk about your gyms in the Evanston and Skokie area later on in the program. But there's a lot of good options for people to work some cardio into their system. But Albert, what about somebody that may not have access to a fitness center or something like that? Are there any ways that you can perhaps suggest for somebody to take advantage of the outdoors or work in a system where they may not have exercise equipment readily available?
Absolutely. Well, when it comes to not having some of the larger machines available, something like a jump rope is very simple, right?
Sure.
Something that just allows you to work off your body weight. And of course, this always assumes that you may have something close by where you can shower and you can get back to work, depending on whatever situation that you have. But just something as simple as getting out and going for a 10, 15-minute walk in the middle of the day. It's not something that's going to have you shed pounds, but it's going to have this sort of same effect on your brain and your ability to actually be most productive.
So interesting. Simple ways to be more productive at work. And it starts with whether it's in the beginning of the day, and some people are not morning people, so maybe work it into your lunch schedule or something like that. And what about nutrition? What are some tips that you have for, again, the busy professional that maybe is used to stuffing down some Mickey D's in the morning or something like that? What suggestions or options would you propose for them?
I would say that the nutrition is a little out of the box. It's not something that a lot of people have necessarily heard of outside of the fitness realm. But there is something called intermittent fasting, which relates to actually not eating for a significant amount of time. Breakfast, as we've been told, is the most important meal of the day, but then you're actually supposed to be breaking a fast. And that fast has to be of a slightly longer duration. So someone who can get up and eat very light in the morning, relatively light in the middle of the day, what's happening is you're not taking energy that would be devoted towards digestion, right? And, yet that energy is accessible and readily there for other things. So I would say, I like to eat very light in the AM hours, all the way up even through lunch, things that are easily digestible, some fruits, vegetables here and there, pick, graze, not have a really heavy meal. And then from there, when my schedule allows, maybe towards the latter half of the day when I'm done, over the course of 2 to 3 hours, consume 80% of the calories then. And you'll find over time, it's a little hard at first when you're not used to it, but you'll find over time how much time you actually spend eating, walking to get food, the various activities that involve food can now be spent on productivity, whether it be exercise that will make you more productive analytically and intellectually, or whether it can just be actual time that you can spend on whatever tasks you've designated for the day.
Good advice, once again, nutrition, good advice on exercise for busy professionals. But there's one more piece that for the busy professional that may not come so easily. And I know, Albert, you and I have had many a conversation on this, both on the air and off the air, but that is about sleep. How important is sleep to actually being productive at work?
Well, it's actually unbelievable. They now think that sleep is the new high blood pressure. For a while, people had high blood pressure, and they weren't really sure what all was related to it. And now we've come to realize all the horrible things that can happen if your blood pressure is too high. And now if people are not getting enough sleep, we realize the ways that it affects your short-term memory, your long-term memory, of course, your temperament. So it's critically important, again, to make time for yourself. Once did an interview for Entrepreneur Magazine, and I asked the interviewer, I said, what's the best advice you've received from the entrepreneurs? And she said the best advice from the most successful entrepreneurs was they make time for themselves. Right? And they make that time, whether it's to exercise or to get an extra 40 minutes of sleep a night, things that actually allow them to be better at what they do best.
Mm-hmm. And there's always ways to squeeze in a few extra minutes. I know for some people they may not be able to sleep that much longer at night, but for some people that may have a nice private office or something like that, take a little nap or something like that, squeeze in an extra few minutes of rest during the day.
Just like the Spanish, that 20-minute siesta is great. I have always been a napper in the middle of the day. That's what I would do during my lunch hour. I would nap first and eat last. And especially if you're somewhere where you can go secluded and take a quick cat nap, that can actually do quite a bit for you. Increasing the quality of your sleep as well. If you can't increase the duration, then do what you can to increase the quality. You can do that by going online and just seeing some good tips on sleep hygiene.
Absolutely. And Albert, have you seen those treadmill desks or elliptical desks? What do you think of those?
I think they're interesting. I think the whole point is that they get people focused on staying active, staying moving. I don't know that you're going to be as effective, of course, as having an exercise regimen that has a little bit more intensity into it. But everything starts with small steps, baby steps. And if that's the step that you can take, then I say go for it.
Well, clearly, again, tips from our good friend Albert Ferguson about how even the busy professional can incorporate little things that can make a big difference, whether it's regarding weight, strength, or certainly, again, sort of your focus during the day. And everybody can use a little bit more focus regardless of what position you may be in. So lots of great tips, lots of great advice. And indeed, Albert, you've been on the program a few times in the past, so you can always visit my website, shalomklein.com, where you can download podcasts from our conversation with our good friend Albert Ferguson, as well as so many other guests as well. But Albert, we are running out of time, and I want to make sure that our listeners can find you. So they can learn more about the fitness centers, the gyms that might be in their neck of the woods, as well as a personalized training program.
Absolutely. Well, definitely have 3 gyms. One's focused on personal training and sport conditioning. You can find that at thefitnessmatrix.me. Also have a gym that's focused on corrective exercise. You can find it at continuinggym.com. And also have a gym that's focused on sort of alternative functional fitness, North Shore Boxing and MMA, which you can also go for the time being to the Fitness Matrix website to get information on. So
let's share that website one more time for our listeners that may have missed it. And again, I'd encourage our listeners, now is a good time. The weather's getting better. There's really no excuse to take baby steps, and whether you work with somebody like Albert or anybody else, or you're doing it on your own, there's always something that you could do. But let's share that website one more time.
It's www.thefitnessmatrix.me.
Fantastic. Albert Ferguson, thank you so much for joining us on the program. We'll be sure to share some of your tips through our social media platforms. Follow me on Twitter @Shalom Klein. You'll also get on my website, shalomklein.com. We are powered by our good friends at Tandem HR, your solution center for everything, the Affordable Care Act, everything regarding the ACA. You don't want to miss it. Check out their brand new website, tandemhr.com. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Stuck